Just give me 1 second here.
That's just no fun.
No,
Mike.
but every time she talks to somebody, I get a phone call for and. No. She's a physical.
Trying to catch up to me.
He goes to my husband without even in the bed. I walked him to get to somebody and she's just like, I'm gonna help you. And she's like, that right in your face. And I didn't realize that she had body block, she does have tumors in the other. I'm not gonna see this now.
Yeah, it's like a lag.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. I would like to call to order the Salem-Keizer Area Transportation Study for Tuesday, January 23rd, 2024. And let's go ahead and do a quick roll call / introductions. We'll go in the room here and then Teresa, you'll help me go down the participants list. So Teresa, I'll start with you.
Teresa Wisenheit, I am SKATS.
Kim Savinar, SKAT staff.
Mike Jeffy, SKAT staff. Steve Dobernich, also SKAT staff. Ray Jackson, SKAT staff.
Kathy Clark, Kaiser Mayor and current chair.
Kevin Cameron, Marion County Commissioner.
Anna.
Sorry, I was so excited.
I know, and I.
There's a real person.
So it's good to see you stable. Anna Hansen, ODOT.
Maria Nojos Pressy, Salem-Keizer School District.
Sarah Duncan, alternate Salem Area Mass Transit Board.
And Sans name tag Sadie Carney, Chariots Board, Subdistrict 3.
Okay, then going through the folks on, so we'll start with Councilor Phillips.
Hi, my name is Trevor Phillips, counselor for Ward 3 and from the city of Salem Council.
And Councilor Saini.
Delacini, City of Almsville.
And then going through staff members, Alan. Pollock. Hi. Okay, hi, Alan. And then Shofi Azam. Okay, so you and Shofi is with Chariots, thank you. Okay, so both from Chariots. Brandon?
Hi, Brandon Williams, ODOT staff for Area 3.
And then community, we've got Tammy Kunz.
Tammy Kunz, Kaiser Community Diversity Engagement Committee.
All right, anybody else online?
Jacqueline Green, Greater Northeast Kaiser Neighborhood Association is here with me as well.
All right, welcome to both of you. Did I miss anybody? All right, now let's go to the first order of business, which is the approval of the Policy Committee minutes from November 28, 2023. Any additions or corrections noted? Motion to approve as presented.
So moved.
Moved by Councilor Phillips,
Cameron second.
seconded by Commissioner Cameron. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, signify by saying no. Hearing no objection, motion passes unanimously. That takes us to the election of the chair and vice chair for 2024. This is the beginning of the calendar year. And the job description for chair is there in the packet. So we will open the floor for nominations for chair for SKATS for 2024.
I'll nominate Mayor Clark for chair.
I'll second it.
Nomination for myself, Mayor Clark, to continue as chair, moved by Commissioner Cameron, seconded by Anna Henson. Any other nominations? Motion to close nominations,
So moved.
Second.
moved by Cameron, seconded by Phillips. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, signify by saying no. All right, vote to,
Madam Chair, I'll move no opposition, so unanimous vote for Mayor Clark to be the chair for 2024.
Second.
moved by Commissioner Cameron, seconded by Councilor Phillips. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, signify by saying no. Of course, if you say no, then you get the job. Motion passes unanimously, and I appreciate the vote of confidence to be able to continue to serve with you in this capacity. We will now open the floor for nominations for vice chair for 2024. Do I have nominations for vice chair?
Madam
Yes,
Chair,
I'd like to nominate member Sadie Carney.
I'll second that nomination.
Okay, moved by Counselor Phillips for Sadie Carney, seconded by Maria Inelsos Pressy. Any other nominations? Did you talk with Commissioner Mordhorst? Was he interested in continuing?
I did not. I didn't know if he was coming today, so I did not.
He just emailed me this morning.
Yeah, a comment.
That he was going to be gone today, and that's all I got. It was very short.
He's at an event for this Salem Chamber of Commerce. I sent our council president to that, so I do know where he's at. Okay, motion to close nominations. Moved by Inelsos Pressy,
Second.
second by Counselor Phillips. All in favor, say aye.
aye.
Opposed, signify by saying no. Hearing no objection, motion passes unanimously. Move to the vote.
So moved.
Okay.
I'll second.
Moved by Inelsos Pressy to elect Director Carney as vice chair, seconded by Commissioner Cameron. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, signify by saying no. All right, no objection. Motion passes unanimously. All right.
See what happens when you show up in person, say.
They beat there or beat there. Oh.
Dodged a bullet. That was the chair Clark.
We know that drill as volunteers. Okay, does pen go with it or is this yours?
I pose with it.
Good. All right, thank you very much. We're doing our sign-ins. Okay, let's go, before we go to item E, let us then go give Mike Jaffe an opportunity to bring us up to date on the policy committee composition conversation.
Right, so over the weekend, we got some questions about when we're talking about this again. And I sent out an email to, or Teresa did, I wrote it up, but Teresa sent out an email to the policy committee saying that we're planning to talk about it in next month, February's meeting. So for now, we have Mayor Hoy confirmed to attend. Is there anyone here that doesn't think they can make it next month for this discussion? It's an important discussion. Okay,
I'm back early.
I'm gonna have Teresa send out another email just confirming that people can come, because ideally we want all the members to be part of that discussion, but we want to know if someone has a conflict.
What's the date for the next meeting?
Yeah.
February 27th,
So, thank you. Yep.
fourth Tuesday.
Okay, yep.
Got it.
Good.
Okay. Sadie?
Yeah, I'm here.
Counselor Phillips, you good? Okay, Commissioner?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
I'll come back early for that.
Yeah, I changed my flights to make sure I was back.
And I'm surprised none of my flights can conflict on that.
We're all trying to travel, then we have to all get back. Yeah, all right. So let's think good thoughts toward our airline colleagues. Okay. With that, then let's go on to the amendments to the SKATS fiscal year 24-29 tip. Steve, you are up.
Okay, so I'm gonna share the screen. This is in the packet as part of attachment E. But I'm gonna pull it up here on the screen as well for folks who are online. Okay, so this is our first formal tip amendment of 2024. And this request is to add $780,000 to the City of Salem South Signal Improvements Project. And then to also add a 10% local match. This project, well, it's part of the arts program, the All Roads Transportation Safety Program that's funded through ODOT. And when these were originally submitted, I think last summer, they were not entered with the match requirement. And so this is a correction to that mistake. And then also the additional funds are, in this case, I don't, and Julie Hansen's on line, so she can correct me here, but my understanding is that it's not because of well, maybe because of project cost increases as well, but this project was kind of on the cusp of projects that were able to receive funding for this from this program. And so it was initially scaled down by the city to fit within the funds that were left available as part of the arts program. And so at this point, they've scaled it back up, I think, slightly to fit what's available. So anyway, these are ODOT HTIP funds through the arts program. And our action here is to just adopt the resolution 24-1 to add it into the TIP.
All right, thank you very much. Are there any questions on the project or the report? Director Carney.
Thank you. Replacing the outdated signal controllers, does that allow us to have the controllers, which I assume stoplights, right? Or inside this, no?
They're at the box at you see the box?
These guys?
They're the controller box that is at each intersection that when you walk by, so some of them downtown have the maps on it or some historical information. They just control the signals, the sidewalk, the pedestrian indicators. Yeah.
I didn't know that's what those were.
Yeah. The gray boxes at about 2 feet by 3 feet or something like that.
Yeah.
Cabinet, all the electronics. So
Okay.
the controllers are inside that cabinet.
And then they all connect, if I remember correctly, to the
Signals.
signal system, but that's all run regionally by City of Salem for us. Through their center.
Okay, and this provides the ability for the outdated signal controllers to be an updated signal controller, and that has the benefit of increasing safety to vehicles and pedestrians. How? Because it's not this. It's not that.
Oh, it's
They just are talking to this and that
in modern language. Yeah, they're leaving the
technical terms.
the bear skins and stone knives to actually, being able to interact with the current technology. We're just finishing our system in Keizer. It's been on the list for quite some time, and that project is coming online. That will allow for real-time adjustments, for real-time responsiveness, and a lot more interoperability that the old systems just don't have. And I'm going to turn to Julie Hansen, and looks like Janelle's coming on. Julie, would you like to talk a little bit about what this project is going to do for safety and operability in Salem?
Thank you. Yes, this project, like you've mentioned, is upgrading the controllers as well as some of the signal hardware. And what that does is it allows us to program in additional safety functions. And so that includes things like the flashing yellow, left turns. It can change how we coordinate the pedestrian crossings. So instead of, like if there's a pedestrian call button gets pushed, it can make that flashing arrow not be flashing and just have a red arrow. So it can change how it all works together, but without changing the brains of the operation, you can't make those changes. And this is focused on the sort of inner commercial street corridor. So there's a bunch of signals like at Rural and Hoyt and Boyce that are part of this. And as Steve mentioned, our original application had been on the cusp, the bottom cusp of getting any funding. And so ODOT had said, well, do you want to take, half of the amount that you originally asked and just scale the project to it? So it really this isn't really tied to cost escalation, but to that ODOT found more money and they were able to then increase our allocation to closer to 100% of our original ask, not entirely there. Once again, with this arts, ODOT has allowed us to basically scale the project to fit the budget. So if we can get all the signals that we scoped in, great. If we may have to leave off one and do it later, that's also a possibility.
The other thing is, if I remember correctly, that with these new systems, that if there was a request from an agency such as the city to make an adjustment on the timing of the light for safety, it can be done remotely rather than having to send a crew out to go dink with it on site. And that has been really helpful in making changes, especially for pedestrian safety. We had an intersection that needed an adjustment just by a few seconds and it made all the difference. Oh, Director Enos Pressy.
I just had a question, and I think this would probably be more for Julie. And the updates would be able to work with the transit signal priority projects that Charities has been working on, right?
These updates are would be necessary for working with the transit signal priority project. Right now, that transit signal priority project, the pilot phase is on Lancaster. So this particular corridor is not part of that, but in the future, if that pilot, what we learn from it could then be applied in other corridors, including Commercial Street, if we have those upgraded controllers in place.
Cool, thank you.
All right, anything further? Or shall we,
Madam Chair, if you're ready,
ready?
I'll move that we adopt resolution 24-1 to add a total of $780,034 to project key number 22697,
Second.
including the additional 10% local match. You want that too, Trevor?
Yeah. Go second.
Don't forget the match.
Yeah.
We have a motion by Commissioner Cameron, second by Councillor Phillips. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed signify by saying no. I hear no objection. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Looking forward to that one coming online. Now let's go to the draft SKATS 24-25 Unified Planning Work Program. By Jeffy.
Thank you. So for people who have never seen these before, most of you have though, this is a requirement that describes our work program for the upcoming year that starts next July, 1 year period. And when you saw this last was back in October as kind of an outline, bulleted outline of things we would put in the plan. After we discussed that, we developed the full plan and sent that out differently than the previous years. We sent the draft plan to our TAC for their January meeting, but we sent that same draft out to the policy committee members so they could have extra time, an extra 2 weeks at least, to look at those draft. And then after we talked about it with the TAC and some more internal discussion, there were some changes made to that draft. So the version that you have was that original one that you saw, plus the changes that we've made since that draft.
Were those red line?
Yeah. Well, you'll see some additions, you'll see some modifications of words, things like that. So, yeah. So I can go over highlights if you'd like me to. I can talk about the additions that were put in the plan since the earlier draft. I know we have a lot on the agenda, so I'm happy to go over this if you want, or we can just move forward. You're going to see this again because after we discuss it today, and if there's any changes, we'll send that change draft to ODOT and Federal Highway for their annual review. They'll have comments, and then we'll have a revised draft that will come back to you for final adoption.
Okay.
So it's up to you, to your pleasure, how you want, you like to hear a summary or you just want to move on?
Well, I'd like to know if, because we did get the extra time, I know people had a chance to read it over. Love red line versions, by the way, thank you. It really helps my attention span. I didn't see anything here that surprised me, so I'm going to open it up. Teresa, we have somebody in the, okay. open it up for people who had questions or comments on reviewing this.
I have
Director Carney.
a comment or two. The federal guidance documents that are noted on page. If we could just link to those, so it's easy for me to get to the version that we're referring to versus a Google search. which
Yeah,
is
the-
not always net.
Which page are?
Right in the introduction, we have Title 23, United States Code as amended, joint Federal Highway Administration, FDA.
What links to those?
That would be helpful for me because sometimes when I Google search, I get a version that's not consistent. And then the other thought that I had was there's, I think it's page. It talks about this kind of like routinized schedule that we follow. And I wonder if there's a way to visualize that, like with a calendar so that we can see when the things are coming and it might help people understand how they all fit together and the work that we're doing as we move through the calendar of, tip to tip and MTP to MTP.
I think you're referring to, let's see.
It's like on page 11, I think, it's summary
Yeah,
of
okay,
major
thank you.
planning activities and products in
Yeah.
2024-25 UP.
Right.
Starts on page 10 and then goes over to page.
Yeah, and there's a section titled Continuing Activities and Recurring Products, and it says completed each year, done on a regular schedule, weekly, monthly, or quarterly. There might just be a way to put that in a table or a.
Well, I don't know how precise dates, that's the thing. I don't know exactly when everything here is gonna say, yeah, we're gonna definitely talk about the tip at this date, or definitely go over the congestion management plan at this date. So I'm a little hesitant to give you precise months when things will be ready for your reviews.
Yeah, I can understand that. It's sometimes, it's hard reading through a list like this to see the relationship. And I think that's what kind of a calendaring would help me understand. Like, we kind of do it with our policy development, like we're gonna do this, and then we have to update this every year because it relates to that. And so, right, here's the hearing, and I recognize that it can be difficult to get it to that level of precision. And I think we issue the caveat, like, this is a living document. We might cancel the meeting this month and move it down the road, or have to extend this bar over here.
Would it be sufficient just to have like a bigger calendar? So like,
Yeah.
over 4 years, we do this, here's the MTP, then we have 3 years for that. Do you mean like, do you mean like a multi-year calendar or just the current year?
Well, I think,
This is the 1-year plan.
right. That is kind of,
A lot of
a
these.
lot of these have a different timeline than.
That's why I asked, yeah, because a lot of them are, as we were saying, the long range plan is a 4-year planning period.
Yeah, and that's kind of the funding cycle that we're looking at. So maybe 4 years would make.
Yeah. I mean, staff will give us some thought, the best way to organize that with, some caveats back, this is a up to change living document, as you say.
Right.
And this is, I've really been pleased how this has continued to evolve over time.
As I'm thinking about it, ideas are popping in my head about how to do some things in the short term and other ones kind of like at the end, say, well, the long term, we won't be doing the tip until this year or this year.
I don't recommend starting off with a PowerPoint slide because that's what I did. And I'm stuck with this PowerPoint slide that is like, oh my gosh, trying to make these, find a different tool.
Let me think about the best way to organize it without getting too complex, or I think the idea is to keep it fairly simple so you can see the connections. So,
All right. Anything else on the edits that have been added at this point? Again, we're going to have another crack at this. So this is anything that you would like this table or so forth that would help with communicating what the work is that is underway. Recognizing that a very substantial portion of this is prescriptive because this is a federally driven process and policy.
Yeah, some things will have better dates than others, so.
All right, if you have a flash when you are reading this over the weekend between football games, please go ahead and get your comments to Mr. Jackie.
Was it useful to have it earlier?
Oh, gosh,
this
yes.
time?
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
Please mark that as a success.
And I mean, I don't have any questions, but I definitely just want to uplift like some of the tasks that are in here, like just the, I think I'm trying to like flip between this document and my notes, but I'm just really glad that there's like the travel demand forecasting model, and I'm especially excited about looking at some of that data for chariots. I know that I'm here representing the public schools, but I'm also really excited for transit purposes.
Yeah.
You are a multi-hat individual.
Yes.
Which speaks to one of the strengths we have on our MPO, being able to draw from, a variety of points of view and experiences and representation. So thank you for that. Yeah. All right, let's go on then to, did I flip this page too soon? Our SKATS federal fiscal year 2023 annual list of federal obligations. Steve, give us the money.
Yes, I will share my screen again, and I put a link to this in the chat for folks who are at home. This isn't in the packet, but there is a link in the packet if you want to go back and look through this. So all MPOs are required to publish the listing of projects where federal funds were obligated for a given year. And the idea is basically so that there's a publicly available information point for what's been going on in our MPO area. And so this report is on the federal fiscal year. So this went from October 1st of 2022 until September 30th of 2023. And then typically by the end of the calendar year, we write up this report using information that we get from FHWA and from the transit agency. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail here, but I'll kind of just cover some of the highlights, and then if there's questions, I'm happy to answer those. The one thing I wanted to highlight here on this page is this is a summary of obligations dating back to 2008. There's a lot of fluctuation year to year depending on projects that were taking place. And I just wanted to highlight this bottom corner here. This is, so this last year is 2023, obviously. We had 21 FHWA projects that obligated, 7 FTA projects that obligated, for a total of 28 projects and about $40.6 million that obligated in our region. I'm now going to just skip down to page, I think 8, to kind of talk about a subset of that funding. So 40.6 is the total amount of obligation for our region. Within that, there's the SKATS discretionary funds, which are the Surface Transportation Block Grant, or STBGU, the Transportation Alternatives, CMAC, the Carbon Reduction Program, and then the Highway Improvement Program. So of that 40 million, about 8 million or 8.1 million of the obligation was of SKATS discretionary funds. And those are projects that go through our normal tip cycle, and we program and make decisions on as a TAC and as a policy committee. So all that just leads to talking about the obligation rate. So because we have discretion over that $8.1 million that obligated, we also track what obligated and whether it obligated in the year that it was supposed to originally obligate. And we, in this case for 2023, we obligated about 89% of the total project funds. There was just one project where the construction phase didn't fully obligate, And so that's why we didn't have 100% obligation as we have had in past years, but it has since taken place. So just kind of to sum it up, at this point, we're exceeding the targets at this point, which are around a minimum of 65% of our funds obligate in the year that it was originally programmed. So that's just kind of highlights the importance of us having continued conversation at the staff level, with public works staff, with transit staff, to be alert for projects that are on time or may need to be slipped to a different programming year. So at this point, we're doing quite well. And the benefit of doing well and meeting our targets is that we can get rewards in the redistribution funds.
Yeah.
And so this year we were able to receive about $1 million in redistribution funds for the region, because we met the targets in the previous year.
Yeah, and if I could just add that prior to having this kind of push to obligate on time, about 40% of the funds was obligated in the year programmed, and the other 60% or so was being slipped. So there'd be some delay to the project for whatever reason. And so instead of being obligated in, 2015, it was obligated in 2016 or pushed to 2017. And that was hurting ODOT in its ability to spend all the federal funds to get this redistribution funds. So they worked with us to an agreement saying, if you obligate your funds above the target, you'll get a share of these redistribution funds. And so our job as a MPO is to work with the local jurisdictions and keep the pedal to the metal, I guess, is to make sure projects are going forward. If there is any kind of slippage, if we tell ODOT in time, we can slip something without being counted as not meeting the obligation deadline. So that's why we are, Steve especially, and Karen before that, is meeting regularly with both local jurisdictions and transit to get these funds out the door. So thank you to your staff for being patient as we, wag our finger at them, saying, let's go, let's get this money.
Thank you very much. Also appreciate the attention to making sure we are getting our grant obligations, done in a timely fashion. These redistribution dollars are not a given. As Mike was saying, we have to make sure that we are dotting every I and crossing every T to get them, but there's a nice payout for us. And we want to make sure that we continue to do that very responsibly. So thank you. Thank you for doing that. And thank you to all of us. My big thank you to Bill Lawyer, who was our public works director, very attentive in getting things obligated, done, and done right. So I know all of you have tremendous staff members, some of whom are on this call. So major kudos and thank you. We can talk about it. You guys build it. And then we will enjoy it. All right, any questions on the obligations? Director Enos-Pressy.
The only question I have is I feel like I have heard the word obligate so much right now in like this 5 minutes. Yeah, like how would you, like if I'm trying to communicate this out to somebody else, how would you define it?
That's a really good question. That is a
So maybe one way to think about it is most projects, construction projects, have multiple phases: design phase, a right-of-way phase, and a construction phase. And so in order to spend the money, certain prerequisites have to be met. And once those prerequisites are met, Federal Highway can say, okay, City of Salem or Transit District, you've met those prerequisites. You can now obligate those funds. They're available to be spent. So once they say they're available to be spent, then they can go ahead and design, or they can go ahead and pay for the right of way or bid the project. So it's that obligation that the federal government has obligated the money to be used for that phase.
I think the non-ODOT term or non-government term might be committed. They're now yours. You are now go ahead and use them until you get that obligation, which is you're signing your agreement. They're sitting there waiting for you, but you have to sign on the dotted line, essentially. Once they've said that's a go, those funds are available for you to spend. It's like, when you deposit your paycheck and when you're allowed to spend it. And so they're telling you, you are now allowed to spend it. Those funds are now available for you to spend. And that might be a picture that a lot of us understand.
That
That help?
No, yeah, that's useful. And it's also funny that you use a paycheck analogy, just because like recently, the superintendent of the school district tried to give me an analogy about this one issue that we're dealing with. And they were like, she's like, it's like when your check bounces. And I was like, that's not a thing for me. Overdraft fees maybe, but check bouncing, that's not a thing for our generation anymore.
That's, yeah. Okay. Or writing checks. Okay, we can go down that level. I'm gonna stop right there.
Wait a minute, what's a check?
Oh, what? So I was on a phone call with a company this morning. They said, well, we'll be mailing you a check within 60 days. And I had to stop. And I'm going, I'm gonna repeat back what you just said. And I said, you are going to mail me a paper check within 2 months for this refund? And I said, it's a recorded line, so I'm just gonna say, I'm glad this account is closing, and I'll leave it there.
Yeah.
Antiquated much? I should say so. Anyway, I will not mention that vendor on a recorded line. Moving on, we good here? Fantastic. All right, thank you all very much. Let's go then to item I, as in information for our tip modifications. Steve, you are up again. Oh, that is H. Good grief, I just jumped.
He's in a hurry.
I just forgot to mark myself where I'm at. Let's go back to H then. The summary of SKATS funds programmed in the tip for 2003 to 2027.
So the reason this is on our agenda is over the holiday break, Commissioner Morhorst contacted me and had this question. Says, do we have kind of a summary of what we spent as an MPO to kind of give it a better idea of where the funds have gone and to who? So while the list we gave you is not like the official list, because the official lists are actually in every tip document with all the details. We've been trying to keep this list, this parallel list together for these kind of questions. So what this list shows is projects that show federal funds, and we're only showing the federal funds of only other projects, so we're not showing the local match and we're only limiting to the federal funds that the SKATS Policy Committee had discretion over. So, and on the screen are those type of funds, the STBG and the Transportation Alternative Programs. So for like some projects that have a mixture of funds, I'll use Tomorrow Road, I guess it was, to the Keizer Rapids Bridge project. That project a number of years ago was like 1/3 was SKATS funds, 1/3 was a ODOT grant, Transportation Enhancement Grant when we had those back then.
Oh, those were the-
1/3 was city funds. So of that project, we're only showing the MPO funds of that project. And that goes for all everything in the list. So it also doesn't include the local match. So most projects have like at least a 10.27 local match, but many projects, the locals have overmatched. They've provided, extra matching to make up the difference of the cost. It doesn't also include the federal and state funds programmed to ODOT projects within the SKATS area, and we've had a lot. So everything from I-5 widening, this list does not include that. The Center Street Bridge, that's going to be $100 million. This list doesn't include it. Other things it doesn't include are grants that the locals may have received, either arts safety grants of many of you seen, including, I think the TIP amendment we talked about earlier was an arts grant. It doesn't include Safe Routes to School grants the state provides. The RAISE grant, one of which was the Gilchrist has a $13 million RAISE grant. So there's a lot of things in the big picture of your mind. There's a lot of other money that's been invested in our area. All these things I've mentioned, this list is just what the MPO does, which you can see is a a smaller piece of the pie, but still an important one because it's the one you as a committee make your decisions about priorities and what you want to invest in. Oh, and there was one last thing. It doesn't include all the transit federal formula funds. So if you look at our tip, there's a lot of formula funds every year going to the transit district, plus grants they get for EV buses and whatnot. So it's just those funds this committee has control of. Now the list is, and Steve will show you some tables later on, breaks it down by jurisdiction. And we show that because we thought Commissioner Morhorse and you as a committee would want to see that. But once you start looking at those numbers, you say, well, how much percentage did Salem get versus Keizer and whatever? And I want you to think about considering that it's not just the jurisdiction who receive the funds, but it's basically who benefits from projects, right? So the region, for most projects, the whole region benefits. When I drive on Lancaster, I don't care if it's a Salem or Salem or Marion County, you know. You of course do as the jurisdictions, but the average driver doesn't.
I give it all to Salem if they want it.
Let's talk about the jurisdictional transfer, shall we? But can I press pause for a second? Because what you just said is extremely important to emphasize. We've got a lot of projects in the eastern part of the Salem metro area that is moves between in and out of the Salem city limits. So they have to be completely collaborative between Marion County and the city of Salem. And because of that collaboration, we've been able to do some really significant corridor projects that if we were not doing that in the collaborative manner, we couldn't have gotten that great bang for the buck and the completeness of the system at the same time. So I'm Keizer, and I'm going to say, well done, Marion County and Salem, for working that way to deliver those projects.
And that's actually on my bullet right there on the screen.
There we go.
Was, two examples of that. It was Hazel Road, which mostly is in Marion County, but it touches a few streets in Salem. And obviously, there's Salem neighborhoods. Center Street is exactly the same thing. When we do the Center Street project, it's a Marion County project, but right a few hundred feet or less, you get into Salem neighborhoods. So they're all going to benefit from those. And then Polk County, you won't see a lot of going to Polk County because one, they have not typically submitted TIP applications because they don't have a lot of regional roads in the MPO area. Most of the roads in Polk County or within the city of Salem, they're ODOT roads, 221 and 22. There's a few rural roads, but they just haven't submitted things. So you only see one listing for Polk County, which is not really a Polk County project per se. It was $500,000 for Highway 22 at Doakes Ferry, and then those streets west of Doakes Ferry, like Riggs. In order to close some of those streets, it was for access management. And Commissioner Polk came to us and said, I want to put $500,000 of SKATS funds on that project. It'll help the Doakes Ferry project, etc. So that's the one project you'll see for Polk County. And then, of course, there's in the list, you'll see projects for regional projects like the Regional Traffic Control Center, the transportation options and rideshare programs, MPO planning, the third bridge study, other kind of regional studies. And then one other comment about the list, we have the name of the project. We put down a simple category, whether it's like road, bridge, bike ped planning, ITS. But I look at those road and bridge projects, and this is for you to know, a lot of those road bridge projects are also bike ped projects. They're not solely bike ped, but they're mostly urban upgrades. So actually a lot of it is bike ped. The main reason for doing the project was to add sidewalk and bike lanes. So you'll look at those projects and they're organized by category, but know that there's a lot more to the project than just what category they fell in. There's lots of safety projects in there. They're not tagged safety only, but when you add a sidewalk, when you add a crossing, when you add other things, you put a left turn lane pocket, all those help the safety of the system. So know that there's a lot of safety projects. And we could probably go through the list and say, here are all the safety projects and these percentage of projects are safety related. So, in summary, this list, which is obviously, like I said, is just part of the fund that come to the region, not the ODOT and all the other things, still adds up to $127 million over the 24-year period of these federal funds. And like I said, Appendix A, which is the list attached to the memo, lists all these projects. So Steve's going to show you a few tables that describe where these projects went to.
Okay, so this table 1 is also in the memo that's attached. This is the breakdown of that pool of SKATS discretionary funds that Mike was mentioning, broken down by jurisdiction. So you see the 3 cities at the top here, the 2 counties, and then this also includes SAMTD, our region-wide projects, which are the things like the Traffic Control Center, MPO planning, the Transportation Options Program that Mike also mentioned, and then 1 ODOT project that did receive SKATS funding at one point. So the next few columns, so first there's a breakdown of the total population by jurisdiction, as well as the percent of the regional road system, which are roads that are a major collector or higher, and doesn't include the ODOT system on this list. And then the total funds obligated. So we'll see the amount and then the percentage that each jurisdiction received. And again, it's 127 million total funds that went to 64 projects. This is another just kind of visualization of the first couple columns in that last chart. So we see the census population. So the gray area is City of Salem. Then we see the next, and that represents 65% of the population, or 175,000 people. Marion County, 50,000. And again, this is the area outside city limits, but within the SKATS boundary, so not all inclusive of Marion County. City of Keizer is about 14%. Polk County is about 1.4% of the population, and then City of Turner is a little less than 1%. Same breakdown based on the regional road miles, just to kind of give a visualization of what was in that table on the last page.
It's a great graphic. Yeah, that's really good.
So, thanks. The next one is a similar breakdown just of the funding. There's, again, this is that 127 million. 127 million, and good. Okay. So City of Salem received about 30%, Marion County 24%. The region-wide projects are about 18%. SAMTD received 17.5% thereabouts. Keizer was 8.9%, and then CC City of Turner and Polk County at the lower end of the spectrum. A couple other ways to break it down, just because we were interested in what this looked like. We combined all the cities and the counties into one category here at the top. So this would be the 3 cities of Keizer, Salem, and Turner, plus Marion and Polk County receiving about $81.7 million, or 64% of the funds, and then broke out the other types of funding recipients. And then this one splits the jurisdictions back out, but removes the transit district and the region-wide projects. The idea was just to kind of anyone that we could tie a population and a regional road mileage to. We wanted to look at what the breakdown of funding was for those cities and the 2 counties. And so you'll see that the amounts of funding is still the same here, but the percentage is a little bit different because we're now looking at a total of 81 million instead of that 127 when we included the transit district. and the region-wide projects. And so I think this is the last slide, and this is that same information on the last slide. The 3 cities and the 2 counties, just a breakdown of what percentage of funds each jurisdiction is receiving. And again, this is on the $81.7 million. Kind of pause there, and I don't know if there's any slides folks want to return to, or if we want to, we can also look at the full list of projects. As mentioned, that's in the packet.
Well, I forgot my caveat that we recognize we missed one project.
But yeah. So there was at least one project we didn't get in the list, and we noticed it after sending the packet out. So we will update that. And then there could be some kind of other small discrepancies on some of the, one of the challenging parts was just looking at the older projects, like closer to 2003, where the funding amounts in this listing of the way this was broken down, just figuring out some of what exactly was included and what wasn't. So there could be a little bit of change, but we think it's, like Mike said at the beginning, we think it's a really pretty accurate snapshot of where funds were obligated or programmed to.
Yeah, and the one project was actually a regional project. It was money for the Safe Routes to School program, so it wouldn't affect those splits by jurisdiction. So
yeah, and I think it was about $500,000. So it's significant, but in the overall picture of the full amount, it's not going to change a lot of the breakdown.
So just a really quick question, is it the percentage of the project that's applied to bicycle pedestrian improvements? So for example, looking at the Marion County 45th Avenue improvements, those 2 right in there, Hayesville. So it says road bridge, and then other things are actually labeled as bike ped in other areas. So how do you describe whether it's a road bridge or a bike ped?
well, we go back.
It's both.
Yeah.
It's the answer. It's both. We go back and forth between staff. Is how do we want to describe a project? You know, so like Hayesville, for example. Yeah, things being done to the road, sidewalks are being added, bike lanes are being added. What about the main purpose of that project? And no, we're not. I don't think we're ever going to separate how much of the project was for bike ped versus how much was for road.
I'm just thinking of Hayesville, and I don't know what it looked like before, but I think it was 2 lanes going each way, right?
Yeah.
It's still 2 lanes going each way. There's some turn lanes in there? I think so.
No, I don't think so.
Right.
Yeah.
So the whole improvement didn't change traffic. It
No.
just changed the bike and the ped.
Right.
But we listed it as a road.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying earlier. A lot of the urban upgrades, it's roads.
But it's ADA, it's all that stuff that's really going in, and we're not really changing traffic.
Yeah, so,
Signals or something.
yeah,
Right,
stormwater. A lot of these things could be classified multiple ways.
right.
Under the category of RTSP category,
Do we have flexibility on how we categorize those?
we definitely do. Yeah.
Yeah.
We call
So,
them multimodal?
I mean,
And over the years, we've had different schemes. So
yeah,
Hayesville would have been called urban standards at one point because we were bringing it up. to urban standards.
which brings it up to bike ped standards
Right,
and
the bike
ADA.
ped also, and the bike ped is mainly meant to be a separate facility, so like the Union Street Bridge is
Okay.
a definite for.
Yeah, you're not driving on it.
Yeah, that's what it's doing. When you get to the road bridge, when you get to, upgrading road to urban standards, then it's like, where is the cutoff between it being a bike ped?
Yeah, I
versus-
want to make sure that maybe as we look at these things that
Mhm.
really we're classifying the improvements of what they really are, because it's not, I mean, the road's gonna be better because it's a new road, but it's not increasing car
Right.
lanes.
Very few of our projects actually add much capacity. For example, Brown Road, which we did a couple of years ago, again, we added lots of sidewalks and bike lanes. We added space for the transit, bus stops. And that's one of the reasons we did it, because.
Where's that?
Transit line.
Where's that, where's that classified under?
It's the road bridge.
Around,
It's in the middle of, the side. So once Marion County ends, Salem begins, and it's like the second one after it, or the second bridge.
There's two of them.
oh, there it is, yeah.
two. So, yeah, that's an
Looks like we
up.
took a trip from Arizona to San Francisco too.
That was an interesting one, because part of that is in
Yeah, so-
county, parts in the city. And what I was also gonna say was, I mean, it was mostly sidewalks and bike lanes, but there was a turn lane added to the south end of that. You know, so a little bit of benefit,
Safety.
a little bit of benefit for,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, what?
I also, I hope this is helpful, but I reshared, this is from the last agenda item, the obligation report, so the numbers are different, what's on the screen now. But this shows the project categories. And so sometimes we do use these subcategories for the road bridge, where projects like that would still be captured under road bridge, but like was mentioned, it could be bridge related, intersection, resurfacing, safety, or urban standards like Ray mentioned. So it's not a perfect system, but there's kind of just different ways that we can split it out.
Something visual, yeah, like look at project by project. what really
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah.
especially with projects that have multiple things going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Well, Verda's gonna be the same way. It's all of that. We're gonna have the road improvement, the turn lane for safety at the school, complete sidewalks, transit, all of that, and the big chunk, stormwater. Getting that water appropriately handled, so that's a huge thing. I'm glad we're dealing with that now, but years ago, that was less of a consideration. But it was primary in all of our designs.
Yeah.
Cause it rains here. I know it's a real shock.
Amazing.
Oh, yeah,
Rain
there's
a
so
lot,
much
right?
water.
That's a lot.
Thank you for that. Director Carney.
Thank you, Chair Clark. So I'm looking at some of the projects that are labeled region, MPO support. Thank you very much. And there's one called Travel Behavior Survey, and I think we just got one maybe from ODOT, or maybe it was a national travel survey. But this Travel Behavior Survey from 2010 seems like it may have been different from that, and I'm wondering why it's a standalone in this period of time, and whether or not there's any
Yeah, so
regional intention to recreate something like that. How did it come about?
So we do travel behavior surveys every decade, and we're trying to move it more less. We're trying to do it every 2 years. So the last time we did a travel survey was in 2009, 2010, and we funded it with apparently some sort of federal funds. And that's why it's listed. This time we used CRISA, which stands for some sort of COVID relief.
Okay.
Yeah, and we're doing one now, so it's 2023 and 20, and you'll see 2024 with more data collection. So that's why it's not listed, because we're using state funds. Well, the different color of money. Different color, yeah, non-federal. Sorry about that.
Yeah. No, understood.
So that's why that's.
In a different bucket.
Right, and if you
Not
look,
the
if we
federal.
went back to 94, there would have been a different one that had that surveys.
And do we see those travel behavior survey outcomes ever? Is it-
Yes,
Yes.
later this year, we'll have some reports.
Ooh,
But, or it might be early next year, depending on everything getting done. Yeah, first thing they do, though, they have to do more data collection in the spring. We contacting more households this spring, so.
You.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, we're talking about travel behavior.
She's been, very, very interesting, some of her observations and stuff. Lonnie's not here, she could talk.
She was. Yeah, she's on.
Lonnie, are you there?
I am.
Yeah, I just mentioned didn't you hire a psychologist before analyzing
Yes,
traffic behaviors?
yes, we have recently hired a behavioral psychologist.
in our traffic engineering section with Carl Lund. And she's bringing a different approach to how we analyze our safety.
I think she's analyzing the Board of Commissioners.
We're all doing that, actually, but
Yeah,
yeah. No.
Moving on.
Maybe someday we can share what some of the things. I just wanted.
I don't know if we'll do, yeah, we can have, her name is Eileen Collins. And we could have her, yeah, we'd be happy to have her come and talk to you about what she's finding, because she's definitely looking at things differently than engineers tend to, and she's coming up with some different ideas that we are exploring. And so, yeah, it's really interesting.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Really
It
cool.
really is, yeah.
Yeah.
There aren't a lot
We're
of
not-
people doing this. This
No.
was something, this was one of Carl's ideas. Clackamas County might be doing something a little bit similar, but when we reached around and we talked to other agencies, this wasn't a common thing at all. So, it's really interesting. We're actually, because ODOT their safety office has seen how we're doing safety, we're approaching our safety a little bit differently and more proactively. It's opening up some grant opportunities for us. So there's some really good things happening. Yeah.
Oh, I need to talk to you offline about this. Our Traffic Safety Bike Ped Committee is updating our neighborhood transportation management plan, which was from literally the last century. It was a huge shift forward. Major shout out to Tammy Saldivar, who works for ODOT. This would be fascinating for our Traffic Safety Bike Ped Committee to hear as well. So that would be fantastic. Thank you.
Kathy, I would be happy to have Carl, Bill and I have all met together.
Yeah.
To talk about big picture things. So we'd be happy to talk about Eileen, and maybe if there's any opportunity to work with the city of Keizer.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We'll be in touch.
Sorry
Okay,
to
sounds
bring
good.
that up, but I think it's a good.
No, I think that's, talk about innovative,
Creative.
Yeah.
you know, holistic problem analysis.
Yeah.
No, you're considering the entire package. It's not just the, how do I keep my bicycle within these 2 feet, but understanding the behavior of individuals as we're making choices and how to design and engineer, because what do we all learn early on in transportation planning? You can educate, you can enforce, but if you really want to make a difference, design it right. It's all about the engineering. Yep. All right. Woo.
Thanks for bringing that up, Commissioner.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lonnie.
Yeah.
I have one question
Thank
on
you.
this, mainly just wondering why we chose the range of years that we did. Because it's like, just kind of glancing at it, it looks like the majority of these projects were done within like the last 10 years, which I think is interesting.
The short answer is when we became a transportation management area, we got a big boost in funds. That was in 2003.
Oh.
So before that, we weren't getting as many funds. So there are probably old documents lying around saying what we spent are maybe $800,000 a year on before 2003. And it would take some research to kind of dig through those, but.
And that's a population threshold that we.
Yeah, once we went over 200,000, the amount of funds we qualified went up quite a bit. Like instead of like 800, 900,000 a year, we got about 3 million a year. And then we started getting CMAQ funds on top of that. So we're getting those two plus a lot of acronyms. I told you that.
Yeah.
CMAQ funds, which are air quality funds, and then these carbon reduction funds, which are about 600,000. So the amount has increased quite a bit since 2003. So, but the costs have also increased a lot. So.
Yeah, I was just wondering, because like, I mean, this is almost my entire lifetime. Like,
Oh.
so.
Make you feel really old.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Have it in.
It's just 'cause, like, it really seems like, and just anecdotally, just kind of like glancing through it, is that like, of the 64 projects that we're talking about in a span of 24 years, like, most of them have happened within like the last 10 years. So I just thought.
Yeah, there's been a ramp up of funds, and that's helped a lot.
Well, also, we've looked at changes in level of service, so that change of status, to being a
EMA,
TMA, Transportation Management Area, was significant for our region. Transit, huge changes in recent years. I mean, we're talking geometric. When we're looking at young cities like Keizer, where we grew up. So our transportation system plan was adopted in '09. So that's when we really started getting after some of the bigger projects that we were able to qualify for. So you're right, there is a significant shift then, but then you're gonna see that a lot of our agencies also had large seismic shifts, if you will, in how we were planning for and able to deliver projects. So I think it kind of tells the story of our region. Safe routes to school, how long did we struggle to get a comprehensive program? It took until, 2 years ago to finally get one that covers the whole school district. We were told, well, yeah, each little school has to have their own little program. That was efficient, no one ever. So things like that we've been able to shift our approach in our regionalist, but also our status. That's a great question.
Is there any additional thresholds we might reach that qualify us for, right? Is this gonna continue?
No, unfortunately not.
Oh, yeah, no.
We don't look at
Some of the better things we've done though is using our funds to leverage other funds, like the project I mentioned in Keizer. Because we provided $1 million for that project, they qualified for close to $1 million of transportation funds. Same for the Hayesville project, which got a enhancement grant. Those grants aren't as available these days. But like Safe Routes to School grants are available. We could try to leverage that. And having this program and on the educational part of it, I think helps us get the infrastructure part of it as well. So we're always looking for ways to leverage.
Yeah, keeping us qualified for these federal dollars to come in and to be able to deliver these federal projects. And I think that your question also reminds us that we as an organization are continuing to evolve. Some of us have been here for a little while and speak more of the transportation needs, but to continue to communicate and understand the environment in which these projects are being developed and delivered is super important. So keep asking those questions.
Yeah.
Don't want to lose all that knowledge.
But we want to get it out there too.
Yeah.
So, fantastic. Anything else? All right, now, tip modification.
I'll just be really brief on this one. So there's attachment 9, or there are 9 amendments that were made since our last meeting in November. 4 of these were full amendments that the policy committee voted and approved on in November, and then the other 5 were administrative amendments that staff made to projects, either slipping them or making an adjustment to project description or moving funds around between project phases. Happy to talk about any of these specifically if there's questions, but otherwise I just wanted to show this, and then you have the take home to look more closely at the changes that were made and project amounts.
Were there any questions, as you're looking from your different jurisdiction point of view, on any of these? Catch you by surprise. Okay, thank you for keeping us updated on that. Let's go then to other business. And we have several items in this packet. I'm going to add one more announcement, and that is OMPOC is meeting on February 9th. And I will be able to attend. This is virtual. And who else? Mike, you're on that one, right?
Yes. Is there anyone else who wants to attend?
We can get one more. This is the Oregon Municipal Planning Organization Consortium, OMPOC.
When is the meeting?
February 9th in the morning.
9 to noon, generally 9 to 1. Budget 9 to 1. Okay, so, Dr. Carney, if you can, and then if you can't, please get that to Mike so he can get out to the rest of us going to look for that, second individual. And of course, anybody can listen in, this is an open meeting. But we can set out to everybody. Okay.
Usually in person or?
Not since COVID.
Used to be, but now it's so. Zoom.
Yeah, but it's really, one of the benefits of OMPOC has been over the years to increase communication and understanding between our, different, metropolitan planning organizations around the state. Since OMPOC was formed, two were added, and that was the, Albany and
Grants Pass.
Middle Road.
Middle Road, Grants Pass.
Yeah. So we're up to 8 statewide, and I'm sure in the next census, probably more will begin to emerge. Who knows?
Well, next census, the 2030.
Yeah.
Portland Metro is hoping that Woodburn will be one and they'll join Aurora.
Yeah. That's, okay. Moving on, that's gonna be very
Crazy.
interesting. Yeah, no kidding. But which would be nice for all of them to, for Marion County cities to be working together. And it's like, Middle Road and Grants Pass, you know, those are two MPOs that, I mean, even share the same staff, which would be similar here.
Yeah, well, I just was at a meeting this morning and the Corvallis and Albany MPOs, since they both are kind of having the umbrella of the Cascades with they're talking about potentially joining their two MPOs. They have several members that are common to both. Their issues are very similar. Some of the projects are really are applicable to both areas, like the transit line that goes between Albany and Corvallis. They're trying to work that out. We'll see what that happens.
I think that'd be set a great model for our region to look at as they negotiate that process to look at in 2030. So we'll just put a pin in it for those people who are here then. At some point, I'm going to retire. But not today. All right. Thank you for that. I would like to call everybody's attention to the letter that has been submitted by the city of Amsoil regarding SKATS PC representation. Thank you for this very thoughtful letter that's been submitted. And I want to look to Councilor Saini for anything additional regarding the letter.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch all of what you said.
So the letter from the city manager has been included in our packet for consideration, and I was gonna ask if you had anything that you wanted to highlight or make comments as well, representing the city of Amsoil.
No, just that we met as a council, and this letter is from that on their feelings of the position of changing stakeholder in our edition so that it's fair to all.
Thank you. I really appreciate the thoughtfulness and that this does come from the entire council. And this will be, can we re-include this for February since we'll be actually having that conversation? So I want to make sure it's front and center for that conversation as well.
Should we include all the letters that have been submitted in this regard?
What other letters have been submitted?
The other letters related to the voting structure of the policy committee,
From jurisdictions, yeah.
but not from organizations or individuals.
We could do that as a separate
You've been sending
grouping.
them out as we get.
Yeah,
them,
we've been
right?
getting
Have
them.
been-
This one,
We had it all in the packet when we were supposed to talk about this in
Right.
October.
It was, I believe, included in November.
okay, so let's do that, but I'd like to have the representative organizations and then the, you know, other letters that were from other organizations. But I think the ones that we need to distinguish that this is a member this is a city organization. And I think we need to pay particular, not that I want to dismiss anything that came from other people with points of view. But I think we need to pay particular attention to input we've gotten from City of Salem, Marion County, City of Amsoil, and other jurisdictions, general service governments especially.
Top of my head, I'm trying to remember what letters we got. I can't remember if the Trans District sent us a letter. I mean, you mentioned during these meetings, the board had certain preferences for having a facilitated discussion, but I don't think I ever received any kind of letter to that effect, so.
Okay, so anything that's coming from our jurisdictions that have been approved by your governing boards, I think will be important to include. Anything else before we go to the next thing? Okay, City of Salem's request for a letter of support for a federal grant.
So let me share my screen here, and while I'm doing that, I will mention that if Julie is available, she might talk to that, or she had some project at home, so she warned me in advance she may not be available. Julie, you are available. How great.
Who's listening up?
Yes, I'm here for the moment. I did just get a phone call that the guy's on the way. But so I might have to step away.
So this is a topic where the city of Salem said they want to ask for a letter of support from SKATS for a grant. They want to submit a raise grant, the same type of grant they got for McGilchrist. Raise, I forget what raise stands for. And
It's money.
and I'm gonna, Julie, why don't you talk to what the grant is, and I'm gonna show them on the screen they do that.
Okay, so what we are preparing is a grant application to do a planning study for the section of Front Street, the transportation corridor that goes from essentially the intersection of Front Street and Front Street at the south, where the rail line and the road share the space. So that goes from Front Street at the south, and then it travels north for about 2/3 of a mile.
Right there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so any of you who have driven down there, you'll know that, the cars and the trains
Motorcycle, yeah, try that.
and bikes and the pads, sort of all share a common space, which is not ideal. For a couple decades at least, the city has had a desire to see redevelopment in this area along the riverfront, transitioning away from industrial. And that has accelerated recently, with Truett Brothers closing up shop and looking to sell their property. But it's really not just that property, it's the whole corridor. How do we envision the transportation corridor here to support the redevelopment that we want to see in this area that is, close to downtown, close to urban amenities? It would be a perfect place to really enhance our housing stock. But because of the rail line, we don't really know how to make it all work. And we've done a little bit of, we're doing some stuff right now, some conceptual studies. We're having conversations with the railroad, and we're trying to put some pieces together, but it really would benefit from a really focused look so that we could really develop what it is that needs to be invested here, whether that's from the development side or city investments. And it's very similar to the McGilchrist corridor in that, there we invested early on in some, planning, engineering, design studies to come up with what is it we're trying to deliver. And so the raise is, federally, nationally competitive. They have both construction funds, which is what we applied for with McGilchrist, and then they have planning grants. And so we still have to go to council. So Councilor Phillips, you guys haven't approved this yet, but we are looking to apply for this. It may take more than one round of applying. With McGilchrist, it took, I think, 7 rounds, but that was construction. So our hope is that we can position ourselves, get feedback from the feds on how to, really best advance this. You'll also see about halfway in the middle, there's a very narrow bridge. The curb to curb width there is about 34 feet. There's not room.
Plank bridge.
And it's about almost 100-year-old bridge. I don't know that structurally it has any issues. I mean, after all, the train does run on top of it, but it doesn't have a functional width to include room for like bike pads or to take the cars off of the railroad track. So
Cars.
all of those things together is what we're really trying to advance. And I think somebody's here at my door, so I'm going to step away.
If I
Okay.
may, Chair,
Yeah.
okay, I looked at what RAISE stands for, Rebuilding American Infrastructure with Sustainability and Equity. So I know that we've applied for a few RAISE grants in ODOT and haven't scored very well, for certain areas because they didn't, they weren't like a low income areas, and so that's a big issue with this grant, so, but that's exciting. And the fact that the city got the RAISE grant for McGillcrest is, that's wonderful, so. They had a really good chance, the grant application.
Anybody object to Mike helping, working with Julie to draft a letter of support from SKATS for the city of Salem to apply for this grant?
Draft away.
No objection.
Counselor Phillips?
No objection. This is in my personal opinion, not speaking on behalf of council yet, since we haven't considered it. But this is something that needs to be looked into and addressed. I've cared for at least a couple patients who've had some issues with, the interface of auto and trains in this location.
All right, so there is no objection by consensus. We would like to have staff work with the city of Salem staff to draft that letter for my signature. Okay. Fantastic. Good luck.
They have to submit it before the end of February, and I don't know the exact date, but.
Okay.
that's the timeframe.
So we could bring it back, but to see the letter, but I just send it.
Yeah, I have an early draft. It doesn't say anything all that amazing, just to how the MPO supports it for various reasons.
Right.
The need for it.
Okay.
General letter. There is one thing that we have to, I think in this letter, I did notice that we say, or the draft letter says that we will support putting it in the tip if we ever get this RAISE grant. So I don't think that's controversial, that if they get the grant, we agree to adopt it into our tip, so.
How does that work with, do they have to amend their TSP in order for us to put it in the tip? Or does the TSP just kind of ride along in whatever form it's in and then we plug it into our?
I mean, their TSP is kind of a long range, plan, this is study, so I don't think they'd have to do that.
Okay.
I think this is, and Julie or Councilor Phillips can correct me, but this is already in their TSP to do the improvements in general. So this would fit under that category within their plan. And then if they get the funds to actually construct, I don't think that would be a big
Yeah,
thing.
I don't remember what it says in their plan about this, but just living in the area, I do know that as a city, they've looked at this area multiple times, for housing reasons, more recently for that redevelopment reasons, and other reasons. So it wouldn't surprise me if they say something about the need to do something on the street. But this, obviously, this plan is to figure out all the details.
Sooner the better. Right, Councilor Phillips?
Yeah, I mean, as I said before, I think it really needs to be looked at and improved. I've had issues in this part of town. I used to drive it more regularly when my mom lived in Keizer, but yeah, it's, oof.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially when the trains come the other direction, south.
Oh. I had a student that got in a crash there because of that, so.
I've seen patients who've had crashes there. Like, it's just, ugh. And they're just shocked. They're like, what?
Oh, my sister and brother-in-law were here from San Francisco. They were like, and we were driving down this street and then. Doesn't happen in San Francisco.
Okay, yeah. Another step forward for our region. All right, go forth and let's get that money. Show us the money. All right, let's go on to the Oregon Transportation Plan implementation. We have the slides here.
Yeah, this was, when you gave your report, Chair, from the last OMPOC meeting, I guess.
Yeah,
You said they did a very good presentation on this. Can we get the slides? So this is the slides of the Oregon Transportation Plan, but it was adopted in June, I think, last year. And then this is their next steps. How do we implement the major policies in that plan? What are the next steps? So these show everything from a little bit about the plan, its vision, its goals, and then going forward, what are the implementation actions coming from that plan? Everything from, you know, focusing on safety to electrify the transportation system, et cetera. So you're welcome to flip through this, and I can try to answer your questions you might have, or maybe
help me, Anna.
want to. So, but it gives a nice summary of what their next steps are, as far as now that they have a plan that took them many years to do, and was, I forget, the last plan was 2012. Was the last? It was a long time in between plans. So now that they spent all this time and effort developing plans, they want to start implementing those major policies.
But in action. So yeah, I was really impressed with the presentation and the slides, so I'm glad we have a chance for you to also understand the environment in which we're working, you know, partnering with ODOT and the direction they're going, so we can get good work done together. All right, our next policy meeting will be on February 27th. Again, if anything happens between now and then and you can't make it, we have got to know right away. This one was, we need all hands on deck for this conversation. So plan to be here, and I heard 3 of us have changed our travel plans to make sure we are here.
Real quick question on that, Chair.
Yes,
And I haven't checked my calendar, but I'm going to right now. If someone can't be here and we're gonna do a vote, can they submit a vote to the staff
So
or comments or what?
let me mention the non-ODOT positions here. So
Sure.
our bylaw says someone can represent a jurisdiction if they're another elected official from that jurisdiction. So it can't be a staff member from
Right,
City of Keizer, but it can be another elected official
okay,
or from the district, you know, appointed official. As far as ODOT, it could be some other ODOT official.
okay,
If
okay.
you can't make it,
Okay.
let me know, and let me know who you're sending.
okay.
Is there gonna be a vote? I have no idea if there's gonna be a vote, but there's definitely gonna be a lot of discussion. That'll be up to the group, if they want to make any decisions in that meeting, or just kind of lay out more of where we're at in this whole process.
Can do that.
okay. Thank you for that clarification. The next TAC meeting would be on February 13th. And that is all I have. Is there anything else that, for the good of the order? All right,
I have one thing,
Yes.
so, Teresa is not leaving the COG, but she's taking a different position at the COG, gonna work in our finance department. And so we do have a job opening that we posted today.
Yes.
So if you have someone that you think might be a good fit for us to do the kind of work Teresa's doing, we'd love to get lots of applicants so we can choose the best person.
Congratulations.
yeah.
I'm so excited. Mike is not.
I am not. I'm happy for her, but I'm, you know, have to start over again with a new person.
Yeah.
But, so the job opening is on our webpage, on the COGS webpage, and it'll send you to a link to how to apply through NeoGov, which is a very generalized applications portal. So if you know someone really good, please send them our way.
Absolutely. All right, and congrats to Teresa. Thank you for your good work for us, and glad you're staying at the COG. Strong team. All right, folks, the time is 1:29 and we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah.